Welcome back to another video on the channel. I hope everybody has enjoyed Wimbledon 2021 so far. I certainly have. Just talking a little bit about the first week. Obviously, it was a massive shame to see Serena Williams pull out. But the highlights for me, seeing Andy Murray back winning matches in centre court with a fantastic crowd. Emma Raducanu has been a brilliant story for British tennis, and her tournament came to a very sad end last night with Chetna pull out. But you can only look back with fond memories, and she's created some memories that will last a lifetime, gained some vital experience, went toe to toe and beat some, top 50 players, former French Open finalist Marketa Vondrousova. So it's been, a fantastic week of tennis, but obviously the second week is where it really gets interesting. We get the best against the best, and we also get the two finals. So in this one, I'm going to be talking about the men's last eight and just giving my previews and predictions of those quarterfinals. So kicking things off with world number one, Novak Djokovic against Martin Fucsovics. And I wouldn't say we've seen vintage Novak Djokovic yet. I think you can sort of forgive him for the fact that he won the French Open, and it was a very tough French Open as well. We know he came back from 2 sets down against, Lorenzo Musetti. He then battle passed Rafael Nadal in 4 sets, and then 2 sets down to love against Stefanos Tsitsipas in the final. After that, Djokovic only had a 2-week break to prepare for Wimbledon, which is very, very short when you've got another long Grand Slam coming up, and no preparation on grass really. He played a doubles match in Mallorca. So Djokovic hasn't looked his absolute best. He's only dropped 1 set so far, but he hasn't played any too risky of opponents. I think he's more or less just got the job done. He stepped it up with the back end of sets when he's had to, but luckily for him, he hasn't gone, a set or two down in any match yet and had to play 3 or 4 hours, as I say, to produce some of his best tennis in the biggest moments, and just had enough to edge past opponents so far. Now you get to the quarter-final stage, as Djokovic does most of the time. He starts to peak, he starts up his game, produces his best tennis for the duration of the match rather than just at the back end of sets. So from this point on, I think we'll really get to see, can Novak Djokovic win this title? Has he had enough time to recover from Wimbledon? I don't think we've really had those questions answered yet, because he hasn't played a good enough play to really test him and push him in the big moments. But up against the likes of Shapovalov and Beretini and Federer, we will certainly see Djokovic tested, and whether he'll be up to those tests is remain to be seen. Up against Martin Fucsovics, who's reached his first ever Grand Slam quarter final, and he's had a fantastic tournament. He was set down to Yannick Sinner, I think, in round one, beat Diego Schwartzman, and then came back from 2 sets to 1 down to beat 5th seed Andrei Rublev. The first time he's beaten Andrei Rublev, and it was just a fantastic win. And I think, unfortunately for him, that he does face Djokovic next. It's Djokovic's overwhelming favourite. He has to be. But Fucsovics is a player that's strong from the baseline. He's got a solid serve. He doesn't make too many enforced errors. Solid, as I say, on forehand and backhand. He's got good variation, but he plays quite similar to Djokovic. He loves baseline rallies, long exchanges, but you just think the quality of Djokovic's serving and return at the moment will be enough to see him through this one. Djokovic's serving in 2021 as good as I've ever seen him in his whole career. His return of serve is arguably the best shot in tennis. And you just feel like the variation, the backhand slice from Djokovic, his ability to go down the line. The cross-court forehand looks, very safe and assured at this tournament, especially. And, the drop shots, Djokovic is executing the drop shot a lot better. And although Fucsovics, I think, can, stick with Djokovic and maybe frustrate him at times, he's had some very, very good wins. He'll come at the match with confidence. He hasn't got much to lose, so I'm sure he's going to have a good go of it. But, looking at the stats and the experience of Djokovic and the fact he's a 5-time Wimbledon champion, he's looked rather unfazed this tournament so far. You do have to make Djokovic a huge, huge favourite. And I think with Djokovic at the moment, he doesn't want to be getting pushed. He doesn't want to go 4 and 5 hours because he might have doubts of his fitness, as I said about that short turnaround from Paris. So I'd expect Djokovic to make a pretty fast start, try and take command of the match early, try and dominate the first set, and sort of take the sting and hope out of Fucsovics' game, and then it should be pretty plain sailing from there. So I'm going to go with Djokovic in straight sets to win that one. Moving on now to Karen Khachanov against Denis Shapovalov, and Khachanov came through an absolute rollercoaster 5th set against Seb Korda on what was his 21st birthday. There was something crazy like 12 or 13 breaks of serve in that deciding set. before Khachanov won it 8-6, I think it was, or 9-7 it might have even been. I think Khachanov served for the match on 3 occasions, which, mentally for him isn't a great thing moving on to the quarterfinals. To not be able to serve out on 3 occasions when you've got a huge first serve like he has is slightly worrying, I think, on his part. I've always watched Khachanov a lot over the years, and I think he has a very good all-round game, but he is still a bit erratic. It does make too many enforced errors for me. Still, I'm not sure he's the most mentally stable in the big moments, which is, what separates him being a champion and being a not. And he's sort of on a hide and nothing now. He could have quite easily dropped out of this tournament in that last round after failing to serve out the match 3 times. For him still to be here perhaps takes a little bit of pressure off, which might see him perform better. But Denis Shapovalov is arguably, for me, from what I've seen in the men's players, being the best performer in this tournament so far. I thought he handled the occasion against Andy Murray fantastically well. We didn't see the best of Andy Murray after he exerted himself in the opening couple of rounds, but he had the crowd against him. He was on centre court. The shot making and the power, the flair of Denis Shapovalov is wonderful to see, and I think he's got a game that's sort of destined to do very, very well on grass courts. He's got a monster first serve. He likes to get inside the baseline, looks to hit winners. He's great around the net. He's got real speed and energy. The swinging backhand, single-hander, I think works very well on the grass courts as well. And I think he's going to, light the court all around the world and be a massive fan's favourite at Wimbledon with his style of tennis. And I think the fact that he played and beat and played so well against Andy Murray the day on centre court will perhaps help him in this one. The crowd have seen a lot of Shapovalov now. They appreciate his good tennis. He's, as I say, he's a crowd pleaser, and I think the crowd will probably be on his side in this one. And I do expect Shapovalov to come through it. As I say, I think he's a lot more solid than Khachanov in the big moments. I think the lefty serve will cause trouble for Khachanov in spells as well. I just think the overall shot making and consistency of Shapovalov will be too much for Khachanov, so I'm going to say Shapovalov to come through that one in 4 sets. Next up against Mateo Beretini against Felix Auger-Aliassime, and Beretini was my outside pick to win this tournament. I just thought he was the informed player on the grass courts coming in after winning Queens. He looked devastatingly good at Queens with the first serve and the forehand, and I think he's often been criticised, Beretini, in the past of not having the most variety. I think his backhand slice has come on so much over the past 18 months. I do think he's trying to vary his game up. He attacks the net now with a lot more conviction than what he used to. I didn't think he used to be the most confident in the players around the net playing the drop volleys, but I think he is improving over time, certainly, and the grass court are playing perfectly for him. I think he's got a great game for the grass. Although he probably would like a little bit more variety, a little bit more experience of big matches at Wimbledon. When your ace cards are as good as Berettini's are, then I don't think he's got too much to worry about. He's serving at 140 plus. I think he's been broke just a few times so far in the tournament. His forehand is arguably the hardest hitting in the world. He's full of confidence. He must be on a 10-11 match win streak now in the grass, which is brilliant for him. And I did say me outside, my preview of this tournament, that I think as an outsider it probably favours him. But when he starts to get to the quarterfinals and semi-finals, maybe he's become favourites in that match, then it will be interesting to see how he copes with that pressure. He's largely been an underdog when he's been at Wimbledon, but now after winning Queens and after serving so well and playing so well throughout this tournament and pretty much walking to this quarterfinal, it'll be interesting to see how he does cope with that pressure of being a favourite now. But he's a player on a roll with absolutely massive ground strokes and serve. He's going to be very, very difficult to stop. And for me, unless you're Novak Djokovic, who's arguably the best returner of all time, I don't see anyone really stopping Berettini if he has a good serving day. The serve is nigh and impossible to return, as I say. So, yeah, Auger-Aliassime's had a fantastic tournament. He's a massive underdog against Alexander Zverev in their last 16 match, but he played some outstanding tennis in that one. Fought back in both the first and second sets to take them. And I was really impressed by his performance in the defining points of that first and second set. Zverev's a lot more experienced when it comes to Grand Slams, reaching semi-finals and finals. but it was Ozia that bossed the big moments in those opening couple of sets, and I think it was slightly disappointing from Zverev. He did um, become very passive in the big moments. He made a lot of double faults. I think it was 19 or 20 in the match, and it's something I've talked about a lot on this channel, that I think until Alexander Zverev rectifies that second serve, then he's not going to win a Grand Slam, because he can't give 4 or 5 games worth of double faults to a player like Aliassime or a Nadal or a Tsitsipas in a team and expect to win the match. It's just not going to happen. Um, when he fought back to a fifth set decider, Zverev seemed to have all the momentum. And then, 3 double faults in the first game of the fifth gifted that momentum straight back to Aliassime, and from that point on, he always looked like the winner. And Aliassime's such a likeable guy. He's a real flair player, like his compatriot Shapovalov. He's wonderful to watch. Just 20 years old in his first Grand Slam quarterfinal, such a fantastic achievement for him. Up against now arguably the biggest server in the world at the moment, informed grass player in the world. I am going to go with Beretini in this one, just because of that first serve and the forehand. I think there could be lots of unforced errors in this one. Maybe very tight sets, and none of them have beaten a semi-final of a Grand Slam before, so it could be very nervy at the back end of sets. But I am going to go with Beretini. I think if you can get to 5-5 or tie breaks, and that first serve will come very much in handy. Lots of aces come from the racket of Berettini's, and that could just be the edge. I'm going to go with Berettini to win this one in 4 sets. And finally, Roger Federer against Hoover Hurkacz. Roger Federer, again, in my preview video, I said if he could turn up at 80-90%, then he's a massive threat at this event. He hasn't had the trickiest of draws, but he's overcome it so far very well. I don't think we've seen the absolute prime Roger Federer yet, which we can't expect to see a 39-year-old after double knee surgery, but I do think the footwork's certainly slowing down a Federer. I think he served very well in the big moments, which has certainly helped him out, and it's going to be interesting to see how he does now against the top seed. I think the long exchanges aren't really favouring Roger now. I do think he's lost a bit of speed around the court, a bit of movement on the backhand, but so far he's came through the tournament pretty much in flying colours, and can Roger roll back the years and produce his best in the quarterfinals, and reach yet another Wimbledon semi-final, and perhaps even a final. But yeah, he's up against Hoover Hurkacz, who came through with a thrilling 5-set match against Daniil Medvedev, and Medvedev, I'm sure he'll be massively disappointed. This looked a great opportunity for him to reach his first ever Wimbledon quarterfinal, semi-final, final. He did lead 2-1 before the rain came in yesterday. Had to resume today, and he just didn't seem to be the same player. He came out, looked very passive. I thought he looked tired this morning. The serve wasn't quite there. He didn't counter punch as well as he usually does, and the defence and movement just wasn't quite what I expect to see from Medvedev. The long rallies all pretty much went the way of Hurkacz, and credit to Hurkacz. He took early control of that 5th set and served it out incredibly well to reach his first Grand Slam quarterfinal as well. So we've got a lot of new Grand Slam quarterfinalists in this one. I think this could be a very interesting matchup. Federer Hurkacz, I've thought about this one for quite a while, and if Hurkacz can have a very, very good serving day, then I do think he can cause Roger a lot of problems, because Hurkacz, I think he's got very good defensive movement. He sticks in rallies well. He's comfortable on the drop shot, and I don't think he'd be overawed by the occasion. We've seen him win a title this year, and I think he can come out and give Roger a real match. But Roger can rely on that experience. He can rely on nailing that first serve when he needs it most, and with the crowd behind him, I still think you've got to favour Roger. With Hurkacz, we haven't really seen him. Well, we haven't seen him in a Grand Slam quarter-final. We're not sure how he's going to cope with that pressure of facing Roger Federer on centre court, and at the back end of tight sets. I think Roger has to have the advantage there, but if Roger doesn't have a good serving day and Hurkacz can steal breaks, then he's shown today that he can serve out sets pretty comfortably. He's got a rocket first serve, Hurkacz, and massive forehand, very comfortable on the drop shot, as I say. So I think I could see this one going 4 or 5 sets, but I'm going to go with Roger to reach another Wimbledon semi-final. So yeah, thank you for watching this video. I will be back to preview the semi-finals also, so if you are interested in that, please leave your comments in the section below. of who you think will win the quarterfinals. Do subscribe to the channel, as I will be bringing out more videos also for the women's side of the draw. So do subscribe if you are interested in those. Thanks for watching, and I will see you on the next video.